everybody. I mean, the Forest Reserve, the county, the community, even Rock. I mean, it's
Yeah,
really
what,
gonna work out all the way around.
hopefully we could become a Texas Rangers affiliate, right?
Well, I don't know that we will.
We,
They already have a minor league affiliate.
Probably Frisco. No, Frisco's double A, I think.
yeah.
Well, there's single A, double A,
Yeah.
triple
And I
A.
think Frisco, which is north of Dallas, north of the Metroplex, as they call it. Because I actually went to a Frisco game. I can't remember what their nickname was.
They have a rookie league too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well,
who
they
knows?
cut down a lot of those teams. They
Yeah.
used to have like hundreds, and now it's like, less than
I
100.
know it.
Yeah.
It's really true.
Yes, that's Mr. Pettis. So I'm looking at that all along.
Are we good?
Mhm.
Good. Okay, I would like to bring the Kane County Agriculture Committee to order. Today's Thursday, March 20th. May I have roll call?
Allen. Leonard,
Leonard here.
Genesis,
And this is here.
Sanchez, Williams, Roth,
Roth here.
Juby.
Should be here. All right, I know that, Rick can't attend. Did we have a request from Alan or Sanchez? Okay, well. Yeah, so if they check in later, that's great. Okay, may I have a motion for unanimous approval of the minutes from February 20th, 2025?
Genesis moves for unanimous consent.
Any objections? Alrighty, do we have any public comments? Wow, no public comments? No one wants to just, okay. Alrighty, then I guess it's time for us to get our Kane County Farm Bureau update from Mr. Arnold.
Good morning. First of all, I have with me this morning our Kane County Farm Bureau President Joe White to my left, and our Director and former Young Farmer Chair Brett Dienst to the far right. I want to thank them both for coming and tell them if they want to report in my stead, they're welcome to do it. But I've got a few notes. First, I want to thank the chair and her substitute, the vice chair, Mr. Roth, for participating in our 24th annual shopping spree on February 24th. Mr. Roth raised $1,935. That looks like it says $1,435. $1,935.60 for the Marie Wilkinson Food Pantry. His opponent, I guess would be the word, was St. Charles Mayor Laura Vitek. And she shopped for Lazarus House in St. Charles. And it was the closest shopping spree we ever had. I think the totals were within $15,
$23.
$23.
So
Okay.
the four things I dropped made the difference.
And actually, as I said, this was our 24th. It was very interesting because Vice Chair Roth was shopping for a food pantry and Mayor Vitek was shopping for a shelter. And so the products that they picked up were hugely different. And the the shopping carts looked hugely different in terms of the number, in terms of how much stuff they had in them, how much bulk. But in the end, as I said, it was the closest ever in terms of the total groceries collected. We advertise a 5-minute shopping spree. I don't know if you're aware, you had 7 minutes and 38 seconds. So
Fastest 7 minutes I ever had.
Second of all, I want to report that President White and I and 3 other volunteers attended the Illinois Farm Bureau's annual Governmental Affairs Leadership Conference in Springfield in February. We had a rare treat. Reince Priebus was the conference speaker, and we don't often get the perspective of somebody who's served as chief of staff in the White House. So that was a very interesting conference. That was followed up by a statewide legislative reception where we met about 6 of our state legislators for an evening reception at the hotel near the Capitol. In our Kane County Farmer, a monthly publication to members, we are doing in the months of March, April, and May, a preview of our state legislative priorities. So I'm not sure which ones we reported on in March, but in our April issue, we'll be talking primarily about the Livestock Management Facilities Act and California emission standards, which seems a little odd for us to be talking about California emission standards, but there is a bill in the General Assembly for Illinois to adopt California emission standards. Also in legislative, I do not know what the action of the county's legislative committee is on Senate Bill 1397. But I do want to thank Chairman Juby for reaching out to us. I think that has moved on to Appropriations Committee. I know that our adopted legislator, Sarah Feigenholz, signed on as a co-sponsor. And I know that Senator DeWitt is on the Appropriations Committee, along with Senator Patrick Joyce, who is a friend and probably the most knowledgeable member of the General Assembly when it comes to solid waste issues. So we will keep track of that. And again, I appreciate the notice to our organization. We just completed a semi-annual water well testing program. We had about 75 samples come in from 50 members to test their private water supply. Yesterday, our not-for-profit foundation board met and chose 25 scholars to receive $47,000 in college scholarships for next year. One of the things that I handed out to each of you is a flyer on our upcoming Farm City event, Touch a Tractor, April 11th through 13th. On the reverse is an invitation to each of you, regardless of how it's addressed. If you're in this room today, this is an invitation to you to attend a Saturday, April 12th meet and greet. We'll have light hors d'oeuvres and refreshments at the office. Give you a chance, if you don't make it out over the weekend, to see our Touch a Tractor event. This is basically a nonpartisan reception for our members to get in to engage with local public officials. So we're inviting the county board, elected and appointed officials, department heads, and anybody in the room, especially the Development Community Services staff. And as a bonus, if you RSVP by April 4th, we will reserve you 2 complimentary tickets to the 4-H Foundation's annual pork chop dinner, which takes place the same night, 500 feet south of us at the King County Fairgrounds. So we hope to see a good turnout. We hope it works into your schedule. While I'm talking about Touch a Tractor, there is also, for anybody that cares to enter, there's also a coloring contest. So there's a couple of coloring contest entries on the table here. The last couple of things, we are trying to work to put together a landowner meeting for the TC Energy A&R Heartland pipeline project that should commence sometime next year in Western King County along the Doberman Road, Meredith Road corridor. We have found that the company is out talking to individual landowners, but has not been very forthcoming in terms of the route and the particular parcel that the pipeline will cross. And so it's hard for us to identify who we need to invite to a meeting to let them know the things that they should know before they negotiate an easement agreement with a pipeline company. But the plan is to put another 36-inch pipeline really close to the right of way where they installed a smaller pipeline many years ago. I want to conclude with a thank you to the committee and the county board for the Ag Day proclamation. That's always appropriate in the month of March. I don't know how many of you know, but today is the first day of spring. It came in like a lion. So let's hope that the rest of the old adage is true. And I also want to thank you in advance for your support of the proclamation and support of agriculture that's on today's agenda. Thank you.
I have 2 things I want to say before I open up for questions. I would like a chance next year to make up for not being able to drop 5 items or more. So if you're looking for someone next year to shop, I promise I won't get sick. Also, when you all were down in Springfield, were you talking about like what Illinois and specifically what counties can do to help you with the challenges that are coming up, you know, the tariffs and the potential issues with bird flu and other things? Is there something that we can help with or that we should know about?
You couldn't start with an easy question?
Can I shop next year? That's an easy one, right?
I will guarantee that you will get an invite to shop next year.
I will stay away from my sick.
As to the remainder of your questions, as to your other two questions, everything in terms of trade policy and many other issues is constantly in a state of flux. And you can see that reflected in the financial markets and everywhere else. There was some discussion about those issues. We do have state and national legislative staff that are dealing with those issues as they come up. But there's not a specific ask that I can think of at this time that the county board could do on behalf of our organization or the farmers it represents. So.
Okay, if something comes up, just send it my way and we can see if we can just support maybe in terms of a witness slip or a letter or something like that.
I will definitely do that, and we will take a look at, as I said, our organization outlines its top national, state, and local priorities every year in January. And we'll take a look particularly at those state legislative priorities, see which of them are potentially impacted by legislation introduced in the General Assembly that has a chance of going somewhere, and reach out to you if there are things that we would like the county to support or oppose.
Okay, that would be great if you could also plan it just prior to us having a meeting so we can have a conversation with everybody would be great.
That sounds
So,
great.
Does
Thank you.
anybody- Mr. Roth, questions?
Yes, Miss Juby, Miss Allen is online.
Deb, do you need remote permission to attend? No? Is she on mute?
She's on mute. Deborah, you're on mute.
Oh, she's *6. So she *6. Okay. Mrs. Allen, do *6 to unmute.
No, no.
I was sorry, thank you. I was driving and I can't do both. So, hello, good morning.
Good morning. Would you like permission to attend remotely? No? Yes? Any objections if Mrs. Allen
No,
decides to attend
no
remotely?
objection at all.
Okay. Mrs. Allen, it's up to you. If you want to attend, great. If not, that's okay too.
And then I have a second thing. I wanted to mention, we get the statue for a year, so I put it in an out of the way place that no one would notice.
I do feel a little bad about my name being on there.
But
Mr.
it's on the back, so you don't see your name unless you come.
Okay, all right.
Because there's been 23 other
It's
participants.
okay. My name's going on it next year.
Well, it's on it this year too.
Yeah, it shouldn't be on it this year, but whatever. Okay. All right,
Well-
any other questions or comments that are germane to this meeting?
Madam Chair, I
No?
have my hand up.
Oh,
Bates,
okay,
please.
Ms. Bates?
I don't know how to, oh, there, lower my hand. May I ask a question about the pipeline? I'd like a little more detail. What kind of pipeline was it and where's it going?
Thank you. You're in the same situation we are. We'd like a little bit more detail also. It is a 36-inch natural gas pipeline. It will run generally along a corridor of Doberman Road, extended all the way north through the county. So just on the west side of Doberman Road and east of the Meredith Road corridor. And there is currently a pipeline there. So, but that's We received the first communication from ANR on this pipeline project as an association in June of 2024. We've heard nothing since, although we do know that they are out trying to negotiate easements with landowners. So our primary interest is just having a meeting with landowners and attorneys to help them through the negotiation process, to make sure that they get the things in those easement agreements that they need to keep that land productive, before they sign on the dotted line.
Okay, so there's already, so this would be parallel to another pipeline, so it will not create really a new easement, it's just being added to an old easement, so to speak?
No, they will have to add to the existing easement. The pipeline will not run in the existing easement, due to the size of the pipeline and the size of the historic easements. But one of many concerns with pipeline construction is the repair of the drainage infrastructure that is generally damaged during pipeline installation. It's also the amount of land that is provided during the construction. So it may not be unusual for a company to purchase a 30-foot wide right-of-way to install a pipeline, but to use an additional 150 feet for the spoils when they're installing the pipeline. So in the farmer's case, that can be a significant amount of crop that is destroyed during the construction. And again, as I say, the remediation is one of the biggest issues, especially where you have artificial drainage infrastructure that's absolutely necessary to crop production.
Okay, thank you. Does the farmer get paid for this? Is he selling his land and the farmer gets paid for a purchase of land?
Yes, there will be a contract entered into for the pipeline company to acquire the easement. That's largely between the farmer and the pipeline company to decide what is a reasonable fee for the easement. Our concern is more towards what is in that easement agreement in terms of restoration of the farmland that is used where the pipeline is buried.
So has there been an environmental impact statement, and are you concerned about the safety of this pipeline?
And since this pipeline crosses state lines, this goes into Wisconsin, Indiana, and Iowa, which doesn't seem logical, but at its southern terminus near Yorkville, the pipeline begins to run east and west. But since it crosses state lines, it needs approval from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. So the pipeline, my understanding, according to the timeline that they have published on their website, applied for that permission from FERC in February of this year.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you. I'm just concerned about the environmental impact of this and wondering who's taking care of the environment. So I'll ask Jody. Thank you. I'll ask Jody Wolnick about it. Thanks a lot.
Congratulations, Miss Juby, Your Honor.
Hey, promotion. Awesome. All right. Shed some light on the county point of view, maybe?
Yeah, good morning, Sarah E. here. TC Energy has also reached out to us. Steve, I do have a couple of those people where they're proposing to put the pipeline, so I'll go ahead and share that with you. In terms of the environmental factor where the disturbance will be occurred, I talked to the gentleman yesterday and they're more than willing to go above and beyond to reconstruct that farmland that is going to get disturbed. So I'll go ahead and share that proposal with you.
I appreciate that. What is publicly available on this pipeline right now is a map and the scale is 1 inch equals 36 miles. That's really hard to identify individual parcels of land at that type of scale.
Pretty big pipe.
Okay, any more questions or comments? Okay.
One
we'll
more,
def-
please.
Sure.
Do you know where the gas is coming from? Is it, it's crossing all these state lines? Is it coming from Canada or someplace like that?
We don't know, but I think we have two people that are going to be like doing research on this for us and keeping us posted.
Okay, please copy me if you don't mind.
No, don't mind at all.
M. Bates, Kane County Board, thanks.
Okay, anyone else? No? Do you have anything else from the Farm Bureau? No, we good? All right, we can move on to the Northern Illinois Food Bank. Hester, how are you today?
Fine, thanks. Good morning, everybody. Hester Berry, Northern Illinois Food Bank. Thank you for inviting us. Today, I'd like to give you an update on how we are using the ARPA funding that we were awarded. Can I get the slides? Maybe? Okay. Well, in the meantime, I will say thank you for the grocery run, whatever you call it, to one of our major food pantries in Kane County. So thank you for your support that way. Okay, there we go.
It's on page 5 of our package.
One more page.
There we go. Okay, so as you know, in May 23, we were awarded $2.5 million in ARPA funding to be used over a 3-year period for purchase of food to distribute to our member food pantries in the county. So through February of this year, we have used about $1.1 million to acquire and distribute almost 2 million pounds of food. The remainder of those grant funds will be used per our agreement by the end of June 26. And we purposely stretched this funding out so that, you know, we knew we would still have funding to carry us through over the 3-year period. Just to give you an idea of what we have purchased, the bulk of it probably is non-perishables that are staples for our food pantries that they order off our shopping list. And then we have also included fresh produce as that is the most highly demanded item from both our member agencies and our neighbors. So this just gives you an idea of the variety of food that has been available to the food pantries at no cost to them. We also, on the fresh produce side, have 10 agencies that elected to receive what we call an allocation. So they kind of told us how many cases of fresh produce they could take a week. And so some items are immediately allocated to them without them having to go on the shopping list and choose them. And they're ready for them to get the delivery or to pick up from our Geneva Center every week. That program works really well because it means that the produce gets out immediately as soon as it comes into the food bank. And then to give you an idea of, I know this is kind of small, but I think you have it in your packet if you want to go back to it. The agencies that have benefited from the food that we have purchased with this funding. It won't surprise you to see Aurora, Area Interfaith, Marie Wilkinson, Food for Greater Elgin up at the top there. But I also want to point out that this has benefited almost every food pantry that is a member of the food bank in the county. And, you know, it's important that it gets spread widely across all our member food pantries. And just to give you kind of an update, for fiscal 24, we're on a July 1st fiscal year. So fiscal 24, almost 12 million meals distributed in the county. And for the first 8 months of this year, pretty much on the same track, a little higher, 8.8 million meals. And then the neighbors served, we've shown this before, but since July of 21, there has been a steady uptick, really hasn't gone down. The kind of little dip you see there in January is typical of coming out of the holiday season, November, December. We usually see higher numbers, but we really are not seeing that much of a decrease. And then just a couple of kind of points which are relevant to how we are looking forward, is the decreases in benefits for neighbors always create an uptick in the number of people we are seeing at our food pantries. So the inflation and then the end of SNAP benefit, pandemic benefits caused kind of upticks. The things we are watching at the food bank are the impact of the potential impact of cutbacks in federal funding for food. We have already seen a pause on, it's a little complicated here, I'll try and make it simple, within the emergency food program, which is where we get food commodities allocated to our food bank. Within that, there was a program called the CCC, which has been suspended. That account has accounted for about 50% of the food that we have received this year to date, this fiscal year to date, so 8 months. So if we don't get that for the next 4 months, that's kind of half the food we were expecting we will not be getting. Obviously, the tariffs will have an impact both on food prices and probably on inflation, which will cause more people to be struggling to put food on the table and therefore coming to our food pantries. If there is a reduction in SNAP benefits, that will also impact our neighbors. So we are just kind of keeping an eye on everything, advocating for the continuation of food programs and SNAP benefits, which are the most successful way to address food insecurity. That's all I have, but I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. If there's anything we can do to help with legislation, let us know. You can just reach out and we'll pass it to our legislative committee.
Right. I think right now we feel like we just don't really know, like everybody else. We don't know what's coming down the pike. And so it's hard for us to quantify what our cutback is going to be, what we're going to lose. But I think for anybody, just advocating for continued support for food programs and for SNAP, at any level is important.
Okay, so do you track legislation like that, or do I need to get that on our radar to track it? For things that will help, that it would come out of the Illinois General Assembly?
I'm not sure I understand.
Okay, so sometimes certain of our committees track legislative issues that are coming up. They track bills.
Right.
And then we alert our legislative committee that this is what we would like to pursue. So
Right.
does your organization do that?
Yes.
Okay,
we do.
if
But
you
I
have
can
something.
share that.
Okay,
Yes.
you can share it with me in an email, and then I can make sure that, we talk about it here, and that if there's something
Yeah.
we can go forward with, we can help you
Absolutely. Yes.
that way.
Yes, so we have somebody on staff that manages our advocacy. He was actually in Springfield yesterday, so I'll be getting an update tomorrow on what they talked about and what's coming up. So yes, I'm happy to share that.
Okay, great. Thank you. We had people in Springfield yesterday too, so great. Mr. Leonard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask you a question. You know, I'm concerned too with the tariffs and how they could affect things. And I guess my question, which I never realized before, was how much food do we import as a percentage of our food base? Is it 10% or
In
40%?
nationally, I don't know that. Steve would know that. I don't know.
Janice knows the answer.
at a workshop just the other day, but this has been common, 95% imported, 5% local
Imported from other countries?
or US.
How about, what, I guess what I'm talking about with respect to the tariffs, that would be outside the US? Do you know what
They
percentage
break
of
that
food?
down. Yeah, they don't break it down. Of course, that's often seasonal, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Makes
But,
sense.
but we have, when we first started tracking it, the department, it was 4% local. Now it's up to 5, little bit of increase.
In local is regional.
Locally grown. Well, yeah, there can be some regional. Right.
And so roughly 95% comes from either other states in the US
That's
or
right.
other
Or out-
countries.
That's right. That's
Yeah, and I
exactly-
guess that's what I was wondering. How much is other states and how much is other
I
countries?
don't know. We can look into it for
That'd be
you.
great.
Mr. Roth and then Mr. Penisys.
Okay, I have two. Tariffs really affect exports for the farmers. I'm not the expert.
And
Steve.
fertilizer, potash from Canada.
I apologize. I was texting.
Well, the big thing I've been reading, we export a lot to China and other countries. And if the tariffs, they're doing tariffs to get against us. That's going to hurt a lot of the farmers, right? Wheat, corn, soybeans. Exporting.
I would love to give an intelligent answer.
Okay. And we don't need an answer right now.
Yeah, and.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Everything. Go
I
ahead.
just happened to use Google just to see what the answer would produce. It says the United States imports roughly 15% of its overall food supply to meet consumer demand. So 15% for the US.
Right. And then a follow-up question regarding the food bank. We've been hearing that, food bank has gone up. Your bandwidth, like what capacity? Are you at capacity or 50%? Because that could be a problem at some point if we're going to hit capacity.
In terms of accessing.
Well, like
the
an
amount of
example,
food-
you just reported in Kane County is 12 million. Can we do up to 100 million with no problem? I mean, I'm being ludicrous on that number, but
Not unless we have the funding.
right.
So-
Well, but that's for the cost, but
Okay.
the capacity of your building type of stuff,
So we turn over in our Geneva warehouse about 8 to 9 million pounds of food every month. Yes, we can do more because it comes in and goes out.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
just
the
managing it.
turns on it is pretty
Yes,
quick.
Yes, we can do more.
Okay.
We did 100 million during the height of COVID.
Okay.
This last year we did 90 million across our 13 counties. This year we'll be doing about 93, 94 million.
Okay.
So yes, we have the capacity.
But and I realize it's the cost of the food that is.
So just to give you some context, before COVID, we were purchasing about 10% of what we distributed. The rest was donated or government food. Right now, the last 3 years, we have purchased 25% of what we're distributing in order to keep that need. The need went up during COVID and we had government funding that helped us manage that, but then the need has stayed up there and we don't have that government funding other than the ARPA funding. So yeah, so we're struggling to raise enough money to be able to purchase what we need to be able to meet that need.
And that's some of our agricultural programs, right? Is to try to get more food from Kane County into the food bank, right? Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brett, did you have something you needed to add to this conversation?
I was just
Okay,
gonna-
go ahead. You can add to this conversation then.
It was
That all
just
things that
the King County Young Leaders always every year we come to the food bank and it's volunteers to help support your group. This is a little off topic, I guess, but just curious on, are you seeing an uptick in volunteers? Or, I mean, I know that's a huge part of your guys's organization. We love to do it, but just curious, are you seeing a decline or an increase? And how does that also affect the food bank?
So we have seen a decline since COVID. I mean, we haven't got back up to our pre-COVID levels of volunteers. So, you know, will always welcome more volunteers. I can't really, I mean, it does impact how much, you know, how quickly we can get the food that needs processing by volunteers out to our food pantries. So yes, it does impact that. I mean, I wouldn't say we're desperate for volunteers, but we can always use more. One example of that is that in the past year, we have transitioned a lot of our produce purchase. So 25% of what we distribute is fresh produce. We've transitioned from buying pre-packed produce, which is easy for us to manage and get out to the food pantries, to buying bulk. So in lugs, 500-pound lugs, potatoes, onions, apples. Those are then bagged by volunteers before they go out to our food pantries. And that saves us about half the cost. So that means we can stretch our dollars further by buying in bulk, but we need the volunteers to pack it and get it out in a timely manner before it spoils. So yes, can always use more volunteers.
Mr. Penisys.
Okay, I got a question first, then I got some comments. So you're purchasing, did you say 25% now when it was 10% previously during COVID pandemic mostly? What was it before COVID? What was the percentage you were purchasing before COVID?
Oh, 10%, sorry. Before COVID, we were purchasing 10% of what we distributed.
And now it's 25%.
Yes.
That's a pretty significant hit to your budget.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we've got the tariff. So this is where it leads to my comment. And Mr. Arnold, I know you're working, you know, legislatively and I mean, as an ag committee member, I think the one thing we need to do, at least, you know, let's take care of King County here. Maybe we advocate, you know, for the local food and you know, for food banks and for the schools. I mean, then we'll be helping the farmers, we'll be helping the students, we'll be helping those with needs. I think that should be our primary focus. That's just me talking, obviously, as an ag member, but I think that's what I would suggest.
And that was the focus of the LFPA program, which Matt is going to talk about a little later, was to encourage purchase from local Illinois farmers. I'll let him update on that.
Thank you so much for what you do.
Mr. Leonard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, Mr. Penisys brings up a good point that before COVID, you were purchasing about 10%. Now you're purchasing 25%. Can I attribute that 25% purchasing to ARPA and or COVID money that you received? Or were there other sources of?
Some of it, yes. Yes.
And where did
be
the
sure.
other monies come from then?
So during COVID, it was federal money through the CARES grant and whatever the other one was. Well, maybe then it was, so we got ARPA in 5 counties. And then the rest is coming from private fundraising.
I guess my worry or concern for the food bank is if in fact we don't have the federal funding anymore, whether it be through ARPA or whatever source, how do we recover that 15% expenditure that?
With private fundraising, corporate foundations.
Mhm.
That's what we have to do. And yeah, it's
Sure.
It's going to be a challenge.
Yes, it will.
Do we have anybody online that wanted to comment? Bill, can you see anybody?
No.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. Let us know how we can support you. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, now we're moving to Kane County Behavioral Health Needs and Resources. Is that Matt that's gonna introduce? She's gonna introduce? Okay, great. Sophia, make sure it's on.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Looks like it's on. Thank you. Okay, so my name is Sophia Hamilton. I am from the Kane County Health Department. I am our community health planner there. And today I am going to give a brief overview on behavioral health outcomes in the county. And then I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Liliana to explore some resources and a new tool that we have showcased. All right. Am I able to control the PowerPoint? Okay. Perfect. Okay. So improving behavioral health has been a long-term goal of the Kane County Health Department starting in 2007 when we identified it as a need via our community health assessment. And when we talk about it, we mean both the mental health of individuals and substance use disorders, as well as overall life stressors and events. And it's also a pretty tricky issue because it's bidirectional. So factors influence our behavioral health, and then behavioral health influences those factors. For example, chronic disease. So an individual having diabetes or heart disease that may contribute to their anxiety or depression. But having poor mental health may also contribute to having difficulty managing those chronic diseases. So this is an area we really want to improve so that individuals can have a more fulfilling life overall. And part of the strategies that we're using to do that is making data more accessible to the community. And this is important because having data available allows us to plan for what the populations really need. We don't know how to allocate resources effectively until we see where they're needed and who they're needed by. And so I want to note that we do have 3 dedicated epidemiologists at the health department that are there to help gather this data, identify secondary sources, and analyze it in order to provide that information. And I have a note at the end of my presentation with their emails in case anyone is interested in reaching out to them. So to make this data available, we have released this tool called the Kane Health Atlas. And I'm going to give a brief demo on how to use it so that it can be a tool for all those watching and allow for more effective planning processes and take a look at some of those behavioral health outcomes. Okay. So while it's loading here, I really like the website because it's very interactive and customizable. It is also available in over 10 languages, making it a more accessible resource. And you can get down to pretty granular levels of data based on zip code, city and town, or topic. You can also look at different stratifications such as race, ethnicity, age, sex, things like that. And so you can quickly search here on the homepage via what place you're looking to find data on. You can also search what topic area. But my favorite way to look into things is by clicking on topics on the left-hand side. And that way, if you have a particular geographic layer you want to explore, this feature will let you see what data is available for which layer.
I blush.
Gesundheit. And why that influences the amount of topics that are shown is because the data that's held on this website is from a variety of secondary sources. And I'll show you how to see what those sources are in just a moment. So first, let's take a look at the prevalence of depression. Depending on what you're looking for, it'll drop down this little window here where you can see what layers are available, stratifications, what time periods. And then you can click on visualize this topic. And it pulls up a map. And here we can see that towards the west part of the county, the prevalence of depression is slightly higher based on the scale. We could also look at cities and towns where that pattern continues with the west side having a higher prevalence. You can also get down to the census tract level. If you click on this tab to the right, you can see the source. And this hyperlink will take you straight to the website where that's from. You can also compare the rate of depression from the county level to state and national measures. And like I said, if you're interested in a specific place, maybe you want to compare a rural area of the county to a more urban town. So let's take a look at Maple Park and Geneva. And so this just gives us a nice comparison of what the different rates are. And if you're interested in using this to write a report or do program planning, there's a lot of options to customize it based on your organization. Another thing I want to showcase is our mental health providers per capita, because we talk a lot about access to care, and having those providers in your city or town is crucial for that. So here we can see again, the western part of the county has, significantly fewer providers per 100,000 residents compared to both Elgin and Aurora. And when I hand it over to Lily in a second here, she will demonstrate some of the resources that we have made available for those rural residents so that they have some options available besides just going in person for therapy or psychiatry if there's a lack of transportation or otherwise. Then under this help and tools section over to the left, if you have any feedback or there's data you think should be on the atlas, we would love for you to contact us. If you have a data request, it goes to our epidemiologists. And we have some other options here as well. I will go ahead and turn it over to Lily, and she can show us some of the resources we have available. Yes. Me.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? My name is Lily Peterson. I'm part of the community health team at the Kane County Health Department. And I'm really excited to share this resource with you. And I just want to thank you all for taking the time to learn about Behavioral Health 360. If there's questions throughout at all, please feel free to stop me, or we can get into it at the end. So with that, let's get into it. So when you first open the site, you're going to be met with asking for your zip code. If that's not something you're comfortable with, you can opt out. And then same with racial identity. And so this is what the site looks like if you're not logged in. So sorry, to start off, Behavioral Health 360 is a self-help website. And we created this in response to mental health deserts. And those are places with limited or no access to mental health providers. And so like Sophia was talking about earlier, rural Kane. And we made this platform with everyone in mind. I think anyone can truly benefit from this, but there's a few people who we made specifically this in mind for. So that's people who may not be ready for formal help, people who are already seeking formal help, but want additional resources. It can also be really helpful for providers to use this alongside their clients. You know, you can assign assessments, or you can send your provider assessments, or we'll get into it more. And then it's also really great for prevention and early detection. So like I said, this is what this,
Stay close.
I know, I'm so,
They can't hear you online, so.
this is what the site looks like before you're signed in. Registering for the site is not a necessary step. The entire website is accessible without having an account, but there are some benefits to having an account, and they're right down here. It saves your customizations, it can personalize content for you, and it saves lists. But we are going to show you what a account that signs in looks like, and I'm going to stop talking during this because I'm bad at multitasking.
Does anybody have any questions right now before? Okay, nothing we want to see in particular? Okay.
Okay, you can see now that we're signed in, and if you click up by your name, it's going to show you what you have in progress. And then also if you scroll down, it will save your favorites. And then you can also view all your history or view all of your saved. And then this site is not really meant for people who are in immediate crisis. So if is someone experience a crisis and they need help now, there's this button up at the top corner. And it has a lot of resources that you can call, text, or chat online. And then on the right over here are physical Kane County resources that all has contact information and all that great jazz. So we did that. And then if we go to the home page, before I get into everything, this entire site is accessible in English and in Spanish, except for one section, which I'll point out. And it is also mobile friendly. So you can use it on a Safari, a Google app, anything that your phone uses, you can also use for that. So sorry guys. So with the home page, you can set your goal and approach, and this is something that you can change, just based off of what you're feeling. And then it will populate different resources, different apps, different media for you to utilize. And then this is the resource collection for each month. And this changes monthly based on national observances. So this will change in April with different topics. And then all of these have their own tabs, so I'll get more into these once we get there. Okay, now if we go to topics, I'll press on stress. So these are all the topics and educational materials that the site has to offer. So that's also the media tools. So that's the podcast, the articles, the videos, apps. And then you can personalize what you want to see based off of these different filters. So, you know, say we want to look at parents, it will give you specifically parent resources. And then if we go into advanced, you can get even more specific over here on the right. So parents is still selected, but we could select women, men, military, and vets. And then it just keeps going on over here. And as you could see, the length is a really great resource if you only have 5 minutes. If you can't afford resources, there's an option to select free resources and free topics that you can look at. And then if we go into assessments, these are non-diagnostic evidence-based screening tools. So like I said, these are non-diagnostic. All the results recommend that you talk with a provider about your results. But yeah, if we just look into this, I'm gonna go to my results so you guys can see what it looks like after you take one of these assessments. And the really nice thing about these assessments is you just get sort of a set of where you're at, and then you can go based off of that. So if we scroll down, if we scroll on view scoring history, you can see the trend of when you have taken, and you can kind of see, you know, how your anxiety doing, how your depression is doing. And then you can also set a reminder to retake this exam. And then if you have an account, you can email my results. And then also all the way down here at the bottom, download results and retake assessment. So this is really great for if you're working with a provider, you can send your results to your mental health provider. And then if you scroll all the way down, it tells you where the sources for this assessment are from. And this is from the GAD-7. And then, like I said, there just gives you a lot of resources based off of your results. And this is in all different forms of media. So it can be podcast, apps, videos, articles, just kind of everything. Then we will move on to the Learning Lab. So this is the only section that is not translatable to Spanish right now. And that is something that we're working on because there's audio aspects in this section. So that part isn't in Spanish, the text all is. But if we actually go into one of the series, this is just kind of different combinations of videos, text, articles, podcasts, all kind of lumped together into one subject area. So you can go through it almost as like a lesson. And the top right here, you can see how long it is to complete the entire series. But over here, you can see just the minutes for the individual resources, and you can skip around too. It's not like you have to do it in order. And then, so that's just more like the learning. And then this is actually where you get into where you can actively practice in these guided sessions. And just like in the other one, you can see how long it's going to take you. And then the other great thing I love about this is if you're somewhere where you can't listen out loud, you can set it to just watch or read. If you're in public or if, you know, you're at your desk, you can, you know, be out loud. Okay, and if we go into insights, this is all original articles from people who either have personal experience in the area that they're talking about, or it's experts in the field. And it's just a really great collaborative resource that Credible Minds puts together. Then if we go to news, it's basically what it means. It's well-being in the news, and this will take you out of the site. So we'll just have that little continue button to take you out. And then possibly the greatest page on here is our Kane County resources. These were all manually put into this page by our behavioral health team. And we're just really, I want that to go away. There we go. And we're just really grateful for them to do this. And this is a growing list. So if you know of any resources that you think would be a great addition to this, there's an About Us tab where you can reach out and contact us. But there's some great tabs up here. So if we look at, we can look for free services, or we were talking about how Sophia was talking about how there's less mental health providers. So we could find telehealth or virtual services. And then last but not least, if there's anything on this site that you're having trouble with, or if you would rather just talk to a person, we have an information and referral specialist. And yeah, she can help you with any of the services that you can't find on this, or if you would rather just talk to a person. So I'm gonna pass it back to Sophia unless there's any questions right now.
Does anybody have any questions? There's a lot to unpack here. So that's Mr.
Yeah,
Pettis.
I just want to compliment you on the job on that Behavioral Health 360 website. I saw the presentation, I think it was last month in Public Health, and I am going to promote that to my constituents, make sure they're aware of that, because that's just a wealth of information that you got there. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we have promotional stuff. So if anyone is interested in getting like magnets, pens, stress balls, and we have some flyers and stuff, please, I can give you my card and we can connect with that and I can drop things off or deliver.
Mr. Roth?
I did come up. Both of these are portals, correct? I mean, and we didn't write them. We're using, like, Credible Minds is providing that for us, right?
That's correct. They put together on the website and we've added some customizations to Kane County.
And then the same as the one you showed it, that's a different portal. That
But yeah, so that is with the organization / company that we work with for our community health assessment. Their name is Metopio.
and the nice thing about these is where you can customize them so it appears it's from Kane County, but without having to do all the work. So I think that's a good use of
Very-
resources.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
So sorry, just one thing I wanted to mention. None of the identifying data is available on the Kane County side. That is all on the Credible Mind side of stuff. So like names, email addresses, all of that. We can't see any of that. The only thing we have access to is the zip code demographics and the racial demographics. And then we also can see like what's popular or trending.
All right, so those are some of the resources that we are making available to the community. If there is anything at all we can assist with, any data needs, resource finding, especially for populations where getting access to things might be a little bit more challenging just based on where they are. I'm happy to give out my card, or I also jotted down our epidemiologist email, and they're experts in the data analysis arena of things. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to make this available to the entire board, so you don't have to worry about writing down any type of thing. We'll get everybody out. Any more comments or questions? Yes.
Brett Deans with King County Farm Bureau. One of the things, I work as a crop insurance salesman for Compeer, and one of the things that I have in my office is a farmer suicide hotline. In agriculture as a whole, suicide is becoming more and more relevant and serious. I was just wondering, is there any sort of agricultural related things on that website for the more rural area and potentially agriculture as a whole?
I think we should absolutely add that hotline. That would be a great resource to add to that site. In terms of specifically for that population, I believe there is some articles that are targeted towards the rural community and actually farmers specifically. And then I would also say in the resources tab, just the telehealth section, and then the sliding fee scales in case folks are uninsured, would probably be the most helpful options there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Roth?
We also may want to make sure that's added to Iris too, if it's not already there.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Having hotlines that are specific to a population is so important because there is a loneliness epidemic, and social connection is one of the best ways to prevent unfavorable behavioral health outcomes and improve them while they're happening. So thank you.
And why most of us know what Iris is, could you just do a quick explanation for those that don't?
Yeah, so Iris is an information and referral system that we use in Kane County. So it has everything on there from food pantries to some homeless shelters. It has behavioral health organizations. And when a client comes into an organization, say they go into a shelter, but they also have needs related to food access or even psychiatry or just therapy, they can create or the caseworker can create an account for them on Iris and refer them to another organization. And then that organization will go ahead and reach out to that individual instead of the individual having to go out of their way to call these organizations or go there themselves. They'll receive information directly to them.
So Brett, do you want to exchange information with Sophia and then you can follow through and make sure that your concerns are listed on that 360 as well? That would be very helpful.
Absolutely. It's as a young leader and also doing therapy myself, it's just something that I've always strived to have in my office for my clients, just so that they know that there is outreach. So thank you. I appreciate exchanging cards.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yes.
Any more questions? Okay. Thank you very much. That was a lot. It was like, ooh, okay. Moving along, we're going to our King County Land Transfer Navigator Program. Ms. Hill.
So one thing I want to follow up, really close. One thing I want to follow up with is this topic of farm stress, and I am going to address it in my presentation today. It's been part of my training, so we'll get to that in a minute. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Janice Hill. I served on staff for many years with the county and now am a subcontractor to Ellen Camps Sustainable Agriculture. Ellen is here in the audience with us today. And I was specifically chosen to be the county's land transfer navigator. This opportunity came up I think we applied in 2023 with Mark's concurrence. I submitted an application on behalf of Kane County to be able to participate in what is the first nationwide program to train what we're calling land transfer navigators with a specific location, with a specific focus at first on farms that are held in easement. You know, we have a robust farmland protection program that CRE runs now, and we are the only county-based program in the Corn Belt. So the program, when it was created and thought of, was to address many different issues. To give you an idea, one of our U.S. Senate committee reports notes that about 40% of our country's farms are held and operated by farmers that are 65 plus in age, and that represents $350 million in land base and operations that are going to change hands in the next 20 years. So this program was created in cooperation with NRCS, which is our primary USDA NRCS primary link for programming and farming from the federal government. And so in cooperation with American Farmland Trust, we were selected. There is our logo. I was selected, and my role will be specifically in training and sharing resources over the next 4 years. I am the only navigator in Illinois, based here in Kane County, but I do have counterparts in Michigan and Wisconsin. There are 36 navigators across the country and several educators that are part of our program. The idea is to gain education and share experiences between organizations to serve our farm families. It's been a very good choice, I believe, to start with the families that have committed to our farmland protection program. You, along with the federal government, have invested millions of dollars in protecting this land. And so supporting those farm families, to me, is a natural first step. And I will also say we're very lucky that all of our farms are family-owned farms. And I think that that is also a big part of the goal, is to keep those farms owned by families and locally. So it's really an economic retention strategy as well. Because we know that we're going to have a dramatic change of hands in the coming years, I think I better move this slide a little bit. We know that we're going to have extra questions and concerns raised by our landowners. Sarah E. and I have already had many different kinds of questions come up. Notable increase, I would say, in the last year. Some of the questions are regarding change. Some of the things that we've noticed are change in ownership structure already, with the same families owning the property. We've also seen change in ownership and operation. And then, of course, a generational shift and an outright sale or request for sale to a new owner. So again, with the easements, they stay in private ownership, stay on the tax rolls, but there are restrictions that do concern the next generation moving forward. And so our navigators gather annually for training on the topics of, including farm stress was one of the top topics that we have exchanged resources, and I'll be sure to share that with our health department. There are very specific state, national, and statewide programs regarding farm stress, and also ag mediation, both of which are really important for our families. We'll probably create some very specific programming here for that. Another part of the training, because we are local here and have a farmland protection program, Ellen and I were selected to participate in regional statewide programming offered by Ohio State to deal with the topics of childcare, along with medical insurance. Again, two large topics that are coming to the top of interest and requests for information from farmers, and we'll be hosting some sessions coming up shortly on that as well. So here's the cohort that I'm in. We have representation from all locations, from Hawaii, Alaska, central part of the state, Cattlemen's Association in Colorado. It's a fine group. What our commonality is that we all work with farmland protection programs and ag easements and are concerned with how we can integrate our programming for Navigator into regular programming as we're serving our clients. Different locations will take different approaches. We have shared concerns, but some locations may select incoming generations, for example, in land access. For me, I've started to work primarily on providing resources for our ag professionals in Kane County. We're a sophisticated county. Many of our representatives, many of our easement holders already have ag advisors from Compeer and other locations. I think our first challenge is to bring education to that group of attorneys, accountants, wealth advisors, lenders, professionals in our own departments, for example, health department that came up today, to advise them of our agricultural direction here in Kane County, the goals of our 2040 plan, why we're doing what we're doing, the resources and the restrictions and opportunities that we have for the easements. I think the county board is well educated, but we do have some work to do with our township officials and local municipalities to understand what our farmers are working with. So here's the map representing our navigators. So you can see just for the Midwest, there are 3 of us. But this does give the opportunity once again for Kane County to be the lead for Illinois and our surrounding neighbors. So we have many different training sessions. Most of them are virtual. We get together once a year, but one of our virtual sessions, we were asked to prepare a slide to show what do we see? What do we see on the ground? And I came up with these 2 things. We have 2 different kinds of requests when we get phone calls in. We have those from beginning and lease farmers that are looking for land. There's not enough land for everybody that wants to farm, especially in Kane County, even with the efforts of the county board. We've seen dramatic land loss. And then the other group that we have are the families, the next generation, or those that represent them. Sometimes it's an attorney or a family member. They want to know about the wait list, which we always have a wait list for easements. They have a sense of urgency. There's often an issue at hand, a health issue. How can we get this land to the next generation? And then we have beginning farmers that have questions about entitlement to the land. Is the zoning right? Is the planning allow for this? Can you help with the land search? Those calls might come from both within the county and outside the county. So challenges, and these types of calls are coming in more frequently. And that's what we hope to have our Navigator program address. Bless you. So another thing that's important, I think, is for everyone to understand is how this work relates to the other work that we have going. Sorry that the font is in white and more difficult to read, but you know that your work is guided by the 2040 plan and that we're operating under 3 primary resolutions or ordinances, and that's the Farmland Protection Ordinance, the Growing for Kane, and then the Stormwater Ordinance regarding watershed benefits. And then there's listed the other projects that are ongoing. All of these relate to each other, and an interesting point of history, Kane County Farm Bureau, Hester Berry with the Northern Illinois Food Bank, and I all worked together prior to the creation of this committee and prior to all of these projects when we worked on the RWJ grant, and we worked to create the foundation for these ordinances that you have there now to move forward on all these particular topics, especially local food. So the county has been working on this especially the local food topic for 15 years, you know, leading up to 2013. And then you have all these projects that have been going on. So this is not new to Kane County and our partners. And so my action plan activities, we all have action plans that we work on. Again, gathering that information that we talked about. I'm doing surveys of ag professionals that we work with. You know, we work with some attorneys regularly, Compeer regularly, to find out what material they have. No need to recreate what is already there, but also gather an understanding of those generational land transfers with our eased farms. But again, that's specific to the ag professionals. And then I'm going to survey the elected and appointed officials, some of you, but mostly outside the county structure, so I can find out what people know. I have a feeling that there's definitely room to grow there. And, you know, we're not creating this information from scratch. We're relying on great information, specifically not just from American Farmland Trust. They do have a wonderful report called The Land is Your Legacy. We've used that in the department with our easement holders for quite a while, but also pulling great information from University of Wisconsin, Iowa State, Nebraska. I'm in a group from Nebraska Extension, and that's very specific to all these topics, as well as the attorneys at Land Commons. And again, this is, you know, just a reminder that for our farmers and all farmers, I believe, but especially here at the Metro Edge, the land is their legacy, and to pay great importance to this and get this into the hands of the next generation is what we're working on with Navigator. So with that, if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you. Mr. Penesis.
Do you have any data showing what the percentage is of farms that are transferred to the next generation? Since you said that the majority of our farms are 65 and older. Is there any data showing what that is? 40%?
Well, yeah, what I gave as national figures, we can pull or request a special ag census report to get down to some county level data, which is a thought. But just to give you an idea, so you have two different reports. The US Senate Committee has 40% of farms, or overall 350 million. American Farmland Trust quotes 300 million, so somewhere between 300 and 350 million acres. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm 65, and I would just say by kind of looking around, most of the farmers are in that age group or have, which often happens, you might have ownership and then operation by the next generation as well. So you have even the older generation. It's a family business, so different roles for different people, and that is part of the challenge sometimes. I know that I have, in working with easements, challenge and opportunity with multiple generations involved with the operation.
Good luck.
I would be interested in King County specific data
Mhm.
for that. That's because that's going to affect what we're going to start seeing on our development side.
Correct.
So yeah, if you could
Correct.
get us that, that would be.
Yeah, we can, I was told we can do some request to pull some special data. So I'll see if we can get a pull for that and dig a little deeper. We do know from the easement holders that we're working with, but when you're looking at the broader level, you know, that'll be something else. I will also say that this is just a snapshot of what's happening. I've been working with Catherine and Siri always, but Catherine in particular on Mark's staff who does our GIS maps, so that we can really capture a vision of what's happening. We'll probably show that in some future meetings.
That's great. Thank you. Ms. Allen.
Alan here. Hi, Janice. How you
Hi.
doing?
Good.
It seems, now this might just be anecdotal, because I've been here for a while watching this program, but it seemed as if most of the people who were interested in the program wanted to wanted to protect their land and were going to use the money to either buy more equipment or buy more land because they saw their children and grandchildren coming along. And the more families you need to support, the more land you need to do that. Is that accurate?
It is still accurate, but there's more to the story. So we have a couple other situations that we've seen repeatedly. We have non-farm members that lease land that have wanted to and anticipate purchasing that land when the elder owner moves on to maybe retire, for example. Sometimes that's formalized, sometimes that's not. So that has been one challenge that we've seen. People that have been a farmer that's been leasing the land, renting it for years, expecting they're going to be the next owner and didn't get that opportunity. That's one challenge. Second challenge is, and it's a national trend too. One farm cannot support all of the family members, right? So if you don't want to farm, that's fine. But if there's an anticipation for funding to come out of that, then we have a challenge when you have a retiring couple and then 2 or 3 more generations coming on the farm. So we've seen that and worked in those situations as well. And oftentimes the easement is the tool that unlocks the funding that gives families options. That's why we have that exposure. So, but once that's happened, then the next generation, once the easement has been in effect, like we have some easements now that are 20 plus years old, that payment has been made out, and then how the funds were distributed, there may or may not be opportunities for that next generation. So how do they come on to farm, start their own business where they grew up when there's not enough land? That is a big challenge, especially if grandpa and dad are still farming. So there are opportunities and ways, and that's a challenge we're seeing across the country, and how to work through that locally is what we're working on. And then we have the extra challenge of farmers from other locations calling and saying, hey, how do we get some of that great prime soil? We have a farm that wants to locate. Can they come to your county? Maybe they've been through training. And then we also have the next challenge or opportunity where the younger generation wants to do a different kind of crop. And what does that entail? So those are kind of the scenarios that we're working with.
Thanks.
Okay, any more questions? No? Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's good. Matt and I have decided that maybe due to the time, because I am a terrible time manager, we're going to push his Illinois Eats Gathering recap to next month, unless someone has a burning desire to have another 10, 15 minutes here. No, I didn't. Okay. I apologize. I'm very casual when I run a meeting, and I probably should have tightened this up a little bit more. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. We're going to jump right to our new business, which is our 2025 proclamation in support of agriculture in King County. May I have a motion and a second to move it forward?
Roth will make the motion.
Dennis is second.
Okay, great. So we will be passing this wonderful resolution supporting King County's agriculture. And it will show up at the April meeting, I think. So, Mr. Arnold, did you have a chance to read this and make sure this was all the good stuff you wanted to see?
All good.
Okay, excellent. Okay, can we take we can do an all in favor to send it forward, correct? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, we're moving that forward. May I have a motion, unanimous motion to replace our reports on file?
Roth will make the unanimous request to put the reports on file.
Anyone? No? Good. Yay. All right. We have no need for executive session, so I will.
Roth will make a motion to adjourn.
Great, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful, thank you.